What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We're finally here. It's the first episode of the I'm Just Saying podcast. I'm your host, Jack Malone Grip. And it's going to be a great day of football, news, and notes from this past weekend. We're already in week 7. I can't believe we're already here. Football is better than ever. We had some buys this week and a couple stinky games, but we're going to push right through and we have some good storylines. And let's just get right into it because I don't want to waste too much time. Most of the people following me now, you all know who I am. I'm either a guy who used to annoy you or annoys you currently on the internet all the time. So nothing's going to change with that. And I hope that you guys are at least slightly entertained by everything that happens with me. Anyway, let's start in Carolina. Tampa Bay comes into Carolina. Tampa Bay. They stink. I don't know what happened. They're absolutely horrible. They just look out of sorts. They look so out of sorts. It's not the traditional Bucs team that you see where you go, hey, these guys come to work every day. They know exactly what to do. They look good. They feel good. They play good. No. This week, they got beat by PJ motherfucking Walker. I mean, I could beat PJ Walker with a couple of people, I think. I mean, I'm not... with the people that they have playing wide receiver, I bet you I could beat PJ Walker. I'm not certain. I'm really not, but I think I could do it. And they just don't look good. There's a lot of penalties if you go back and watch through the game. Just tons of penalties. They had drop balls. I mean, Mike Evans drops the easiest, just Tom Brady, beautiful floating pass. Classic Tom Brady. Took like a 7-8 step drop. Nobody even close to him. Lays it right on the money, and Evans just bobbles it and then chucks it into the back of the end zone when he drops that shit and it bounces back in his hands. I don't know what's going on. And not to mention that the Bucs are just all over the place. The Panthers have an absolute fire sale going on. They're the dumpster fire of the NFL right now, which is they're usually bad, but they're not a joke usually. And right now they just traded away Christian McCaffrey, their best player since Cam Newton has been in the franchise, and it's not even close. They traded him for not even a first round pick when in the offseason, I feel like, quote me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in the offseason, there were multiple rumors of Christian McCaffrey being 2-3 first round picks and they weren't going to move off him, or being included in like a Deshaun Watson deal, which obviously don't really want Deshaun Watson after what he did. But, you know, if you took the talent of Deshaun Watson, separated it from the person, you know, at least you would have gotten that quarterback back in that trade, and you don't have to go out and draft it. It's a proven asset, but he's a piece of shit, so they dodged a bullet on that one for sure. But for the Panthers, you got to give the credit where credit is due. The Panthers played a hell of a football game. They came home to those fans. The stadium was fucking empty. I know tons of people that were at that game. I saw too many posts. There was so many empty seats in that stadium. For the Carolina Panthers to show up in that game and play the way that they did, you got to give them all the credit in the world. DJ Moore, one of those young, you know, all week they're saying, oh, there might be a fire sale. The GM comes out and says, nope, we're not going to sell any of these young players. Well, it was a good decision because DJ Moore on 10 targets had 7 receptions, 69 yards and a touchdown. Oh, by the way, he was sitting on my bench. Fantasy football sucks, but that's fine. We'll get into some fantasy football later. Brian Burns is an absolute stud. Good thing they turned down 2 first-round picks for that man, because the way that he plays, if he played on a dynamic defense, let's say he played on a team, obviously J.C. Horn's good, and is it CJ? I believe CJ Henderson. He's not horrible. Dante Jackson's pretty good. But what I'm saying is, if he played on a team that had like a Snead out there, or just a lot like a Xavier Howard, Byron Jones combination, the amount of sacks and tackles for loss that dude would have would be so astronomically high. He is unbelievable. And I went to a Panthers game a couple weeks ago. He's the one guy on the field that you know you're going to get at least one or two big plays out of him. And he's just an absolute wrecking ball. Kind of like how TJ Watt does it for the Steelers. Like, he's not TJ Watt, but you know, he tries to come close every once in a while. I think he had a couple of sacks today. And McCaffrey, you know, for all the things about McCaffrey, you know, you may not have gotten what you wanted back as a Panthers fan. I understand that. But look at what his backups did today to replace him. I mean, Dante Foreman came out of absolutely nowhere. I mean, I know he was a good backup for the Titans, last year. He played well with them. But 15 carries for 118 yards and a touchdown? Where's that been? I bet you Christian McCaffrey would have loved somebody else to have a little bit of production other than himself. I mean, for Christ's sake, the guy goes out there and used to play like 80% of the fucking snaps. I would take a break every once in a while. Lord have mercy. But even Chuba Hubbard, the fumble machine, he's absolutely horrific. And 99% of the time, today, 9 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, where has that been for the Carolina Panthers? I don't think the Carolina Panthers fans know. I don't think anybody knows, but they played their tails off today. And the last thought I'll leave you with this. The Buccaneers defense, we once thought, well, at least, you know, Tom Brady will figure it out, but the Bucs defense is so good that it doesn't really matter. Like, he'll be able to figure it out. He'll be able to do whatever he wants with the Giselle. He'll be able to get divorced however many times he wants to. He'll be able to go cry about it in the media, blah, 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 because Tom Brady now has all the power because he's superstar Tom Brady, which he deserves in some part, but let's back it up a little bit, you little bitch. Anyway, there might be a little bit of hatred out there in the back end on that one, but this defense cannot finish. They cannot keep a team off the field, and that's kind of how that's kind of how the game went for the Buccaneers. And then on the flip side, you know, Tom would go right down the field pretty much every drive, and they either miss a kick or they had a third and one, back-to-back plays. They don't get it with Leonard Fournette. I mean, how does that happen? I don't understand how that happens. They're missing Bruce Arians' kick in the ass right now, and they're struggling. But we'll see what they figured it out. At this point in the season, they still have time to turn it around because of how bad that division is, and they'll probably still win it. Unless Jameis Winston comes back and has an amazing back half of the year. But I think they'll probably still make the playoffs. And then Tom in the playoffs is always a force to be reckoned with. So you still got to watch out for him. But hats off to the Carolina Panthers. Amazing game to just follow during the day. Because I don't think anybody expected it. And it's always fun when you see just a huge underdog blow a team out like that. Speaking of Christian McCaffrey, let's go ahead and move on to an actually good game, the 49ers and the Chiefs. And before we get into the actual game, whoever that fucking reporter is, who came online on the little Twitter sphere and he typed out, he went around to everybody in their fucking mother, he typed out, oh, guess what? You're not familiar, if you're not watching Chiefs practices, you know, there's this guy, Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco. We've been hearing his name all year. Pacheco got all the fucking number one starter, or got all the starts with the number ones this week. All the reps with the number ones. Start Pacheco. Maybe want to pick up Pacheco because he might have a big day. Fuck that guy. I fucking hate that guy. That guy should quit his job. Fuck that guy, dude. Isaiah Pacheco. I don't have it written down here, but not only did I start him on fantasy football, I put him in a bet. Horrible. I think he had a couple decent return yards, but statistically, I think he had like 43 yards from scrimmage after this fucking guy gets on the internet and goes, oh, I'm going to have the fucking exclusive of the year right here. Isaiah Pacheco. I'm going to make so many people happy with this little sprinkling of knowledge that I'm about to drop everyone. And it just, you know, it serves me right. It serves me right. Why the fuck I would ever trust that dumb thinking? I don't know. I learned a lesson on that one, but to get to the actual game, the Chiefs are good. The Chiefs are really, really good, and there's really nothing you can do about it. I mean, they're going to be here. That offense just keeps going. They have so many weapons. I think Mecole Hardman had like 60 rushing yards today somehow and a couple of touchdowns. I mean, they just battle. They keep coming. They never stop scoring. I feel like it'll be third or fourth quarter and they'll be up 40 points and somehow they'll get Chad Henne to score a touchdown for some reason. But I want to talk about the Chiefs defense, really. I think the Chiefs defense is the difference maker so far this year after losing Tyreek Hill, because with Tyreek Hill, you can just let him run. I mean, we're seeing it in Miami, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But Tyreek Hill can just sprint down the field as far as he wants, whenever he wants to, and all of a sudden, you have half the field open up, because that's just what he does to opposing defenses, or they put two men deep, and you could just run the ball all over you. They can't really do that as much now. Now, Travis Kelce is still an absolute monster. Absolute monster. I think he had either close to it, 96, maybe 100 yards, something like that today. I don't think he got in the end zone, which, I know he didn't get in the end zone because it fucked me again on the stupid, whatever. Kids, there's a reason your parents say don't gamble, because it'll cause you a lot of stress. But hopefully you win one, it'll be all good and not be like me, but that's besides the point. Anyway, that defense, the Chiefs come out and Mahomes throws a pick on the first play, or the first drive of the game. The 49ers are rolling. They look unstoppable. They get Christian McCaffrey. He's playing well. Everything's looking up, and they hold him to 2 field goals out of 3 drives in that first quarter. And that set the entire tone and kept the Chiefs in that game. And I think what you look at what they're doing right now, they finally have a pass rush that people are scared of. Chris Jones is healthy. Carlos Dunlap is an excellent pickup for them. I think Carlos Dunlap is going to haunt some people here in the postseason. And Frank Clark can still do it. I mean, they have a squad, and they still have people on the outside, and they're only getting healthier. I mean, this team is unbelievable. But, on the flip side, I think it is probably a tougher game if the 49ers have some of their guys back. The 49ers, if you really look at it, they were out a lot of people today on defense. They were out their corner. I think Mosley was out, maybe another corner. They need those guys back because they can't defend against some of these teams like the Chiefs that have these many offensive weapons. They still have that pass rush with Bosa. Kinlaw is out, but I mean, they just have too many defensive injuries. And I think once they get some of those guys back, Jimmy G won't have to go down the field every single time and score. So look for the 49ers to be back. I actually like Jimmy G, especially the way he started the game. He looked phenomenal, and Christian McCaffrey is going to be worth every penny in draft capital that you give this guy. I mean, he looks phenomenal. He looks so good. He's so athletic. You put him in that Kyle Shanahan offense. I think I could run for 200 yards, like legitimately, like 200 yards probably in a season. I could probably get in that offense because the holes are so wide. Trent Williams is an absolute monster. And, I think Greg Olsen was making a joke during the broadcast. He's like, yeah, we're not worried about Christian not knowing the plays. Like Jimmy just said, he'll just tell him what to do. Like if he doesn't know, I mean, the hole is so big, he doesn't even have to say anything. You just look for 2 seconds, and all of a sudden the Nile River is parting, and you just walk right by. I honestly, he's so good. He's so good. I feel bad for the Panthers fans. I keep checking on my buddies. You should do the same. Always check on your friends in a time of need like this because Jesus, obviously they get the win this weekend, so it doesn't feel quite as bad, but he will make you feel like an absolute fucking loser because he is very good, and he's only going to get better in that offense. I think Debo's going to have to run the ball a lot less, and that's what he wants. Watch out. And Kittle back is a huge, huge plus for Jimmy G. He loves throwing to Kittle, and he did it a bunch today. And they climbed back in that game. It just, the Chiefs outplayed them at the end. You know, too many weapons, like I said, and I think they'll be around. Watch out for this game. Hot take of the day. Watch out for a rematch of Chiefs 49ers in the Super Bowl with Jimmy G. Watch out for it. I think it could happen. And I would love to see it happen because the Trey Lance people will lose their fucking mind if it does. Oh my God, what a situation will the 49ers have next year if Jimmy G takes them to the Super Bowl and potentially even wins that motherfucker. Oh my God. I love chaos. And with the Steelers being this bad, that's the only thing I want to see this year because there wouldn't be a better storyline in the world to me than that. But maybe, you know, if you can get some good odds on it, maybe sprinkle 49ers to win the NFC. I'm sure their odds probably went up with McCaffrey, but I'd sprinkle it in if I could. Moving on, you know, we'll stay in the AFC West here with the San Diego Chargers. Sorry, not the San Diego Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers. How old am I? Taking on the Seahawks, and the Seahawks are rolling. You can't do anything about them because they're so fucking good. I don't know how to stop them. Geno Smith is phenomenal. Now, I think DK Metcalf today, it comes out. I don't believe he has a full ACL sprain, so he'll be okay to keep going the rest of the season, but still, when you lose a guy like that for even a small amount of time, it's definitely going to change your offense. But Tyler Lockett's a dog. I think we got to respect him. He's playing the shit out of the ball. He came into the game being the completion percentage leader in the league. I mean, Geno Smith has done everything they have asked him to do and more. And I think, you know, obviously the whole Russell Wilson situation has overshadowed him a lot. And we talk about it from the Russell Wilson point of view all the time. I know he said that stupid, like, a lot of people called and they didn't write. I called a lot of people, they didn't write back or whatever the bullshit that he said, the cheesy Russell Wilson line in the first game. But Geno Smith, you know, he is keeping them in games. And this kid that they've got now after Rashad Penny got injured, Kenneth Walker, is an absolute maniac. This kid, Kenneth Walker, is so fucking good. Shout out to me making a trade. I traded Miles Sanders for him. He's put up more than 20 points in 2 straight games in my league. He is a absolute monster. Absolute monster. I love watching him play because you never know what he's going to do. I mean, you saw it in the Saints game. The first time he got an opportunity, he took one like 60 yards to the house. He did it again today. I mean, 22 carries, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And when you have a guy like that, it makes it so much easier for Geno Smith. He's so efficient. They're scoring 37 points. Let Geno cook is what it should be doing because Russ couldn't. I mean, these are better numbers than Russ was playing last year. He's good, man. You got to give it up for him. Kenneth Walker is fucking amazing. And if I ride him to the championship, I will buy a Kenneth Walker jersey. I will buy a Geno Smith jersey. I will be the biggest Seahawks guy on the planet Earth if Kenneth Walker takes me to the promised land and wins me some money this year. As for the Chargers, what the fuck is going on? Because Justin Herbert is probably my favorite player outside of the Steelers to watch in the NFL, just the way he plays the game. It's so casual. He's so crisp. You know, he has weapons, and they haven't been as consistent this year, but it must be Slater being out because something is wrong with that offense. With Eckler, with Mike Williams, they got Keenan Allen back. I don't understand why they're not more successful scoring the football because lately it's been really, really bad. I think they only scored, 16 points last week, 17 points against Broncos, who was a good defense, but man, they had the ball a lot in that game, and they just... Same thing with the Seahawks defense. I mean, the Seahawks defense is not very good, and they kind of got shut down a little bit, and they got a garbage time one to make it closer, but I believe it was like 37-16 when that garbage time touchdown was scored. So really, they were getting blown out by the Seattle Seahawks at home, and that just can't happen. I mean, Obviously, you lose Bosa, and that's huge. They definitely wish they had Bosa back. I mean, Khalil Mack got a fumble recovery. I don't understand what's going on because they're too good. They're too good. They even generated turnovers today, and the offense just didn't score. I have it written down here. You know, the Chargers, if you go back and watch the highlights of that game, they had multiple turnovers. Or, I mean, I think they even had a dropped interception. That's a miscue. I don't understand why they can't do more with that. I don't get it. It's almost like Justin Herbert is like a shiny Porsche, and the Chargers are like a dilapidated shack in the middle of the woods with PVC pipes like sticking out of the ground, and Brandon Staley is like the power breaker that when you turn it on it goes like and then goes back when they inevitably don't get it on 4th and down. I mean, they're not good. They're not good. They are 4-3, but so are the Seahawks. I mean, I think this Chargers team is gonna miss the playoffs. I think they are. If you look at the AFC, it's too top heavy. I think if they don't make the playoffs, or if they do make the playoffs, they'll be in that last 7-8 seed getting in, and we'll kind of see what happens. But I don't think they're gonna make it. That might be another. Add that to the hot take bank. But you know, we'll see what goes on. Moving right along, the team the Chargers beat last week on Monday Night Football, the New York Jets and the Denver Broncos, 16-9 New York Jets. No Russell Wilson for the Broncos, and it didn't matter. Brett Ripien, I believe his name is the quarterback who came in for him. He played better than Russ. He played better than Russ. And I think that's the entirety of this game. He played better than Russ. He had like 200 something yards. I mean, that team on offense is so bad. They drop balls. There's communication errors. They don't see wide open receivers. They fumble. I think they're on like their 3rd or 4th running back. They may have to go back to Melvin Gordon after all the situation that's gone back with them, because I believe Boone got hurt in that game as well. But they're just a dumpster fire right now, and if they can't get this right quick, I mean, this might be the classic Russell Wilson, I have a hamstring injury that turns into like my ACL is torn, and I can't play for the rest of the year, because it's getting bad, and it's getting bad fast. And on the other side of it, the Jets, you know, some people might kill me for saying this, but the Jets are 5-2 despite everything that I see on the field. Everything. I mean, the last 3 games they've beaten the Steelers, who are terrible, the Packers, who are terrible, and now they beat the Broncos, who are terrible. I mean, Zach Wilson had 121 yards passing today. Or 20, I think it was 121 yards. That is horrible. 16 for 21, 121 yards. That's written down right there. That is atrocious. I mean, how do you trade up, or I don't know if they traded up, but you draft this guy in the top 5, top 7, whatever the fuck it was. How the hell do you only throw 121 yards and you get outpassed by Brett Ripien? They're winning games, so I can't hate on him too much. And Breece Hall, it's a shame that he just tore his ACL, because he's a fucking monster, and he carried them to victory in that game. But we'll see what the Jets are moving forward. If I have to take a team from New York, you know, we'll get into it here in a second, but I'm taking the Giants. The Jets, I just don't trust them at all. I don't trust them at all. We'll have to see where they go. But you know, it's good to see the Jets at 5-2. You know, get some new teams up there. But I think they're probably going to fall back down to earth here in the next couple of weeks, and their schedule's been really easy. So I'm excited for that first matchup with the Patriots. I think Mac Jones might be back. You know, I believe it even might be next week, and that's that game that's going to be the litmus test for them. To play the Patriots, especially the game in New England, that's going to be the game that determines for me whether they're a real player, because their defense seems real. Their defense seems very good, but if their offense is going to only put up 120, I mean, Zach Wilson, 120 yards passing. And yes, they do play next week in Foxborough, it looks like. So, you know, if they can get that going, maybe play a little better, then I'll start believing in the Jets. But until they beat the Patriots, I'm not going to believe in them, because their schedule has been very weak, and I think they're going to get dog walked by the fucking Bills, no matter what. I don't think they're necessarily a playoff team or a playoff winner, but you know, they have a good record right now, and we'll see where they go. Onto it, just another horrible game, another snooze fest. Detroit and Dallas. Detroit, man. Let me tell you something about Detroit. You know, there's a lot of hardworking people there. You know, Eminem, bankruptcy, Henry Ford, Ford Motor Company, GM, the whole thing, right? They fought through a lot. And this was the year. This was the year that we all saw HCDC crying it out in training camp. We saw how good Amon-Ra St. Brown was down the stretch last year. We see that Jared Goff made it to a Super Bowl and only lost by a couple of points to the GOAT. They are terrible. They are terrible, and they need DeAndre Swift back fast, because without him, they look atrocious. Now, give the Cowboys credit. That defense is still flying, and they did exactly what they had to do. They eased Dak back into it. They didn't make him do too much, and that defense controlled the game. The Lions are so disappointing. I'm a double owner on the Lions. I traded for DeAndre Swift. I drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they both were so good in the beginning of the season. Now they've been out for a couple of weeks. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes back down with a concussion this week. Swift didn't even play. I picked up Jamal Adams, you know, as a handcuff. Jamal Adams, the best red zone running back in the NFL through the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. Fumbles on the goal line today. They get dog walked by the Patriots. They get dog walked by the Cowboys here yesterday on Sunday. And it's just sad. It's just sad to see, because they look so fun. They're scoring the most points in the league by a considerable margin. HCDC has so much energy. I want the Lions to be good. Those poor fans in Detroit, they've been through everything already. Everything sucks in Detroit, including the football team. And I wish that it didn't, just for them. You know, give them the football team. You don't have to bring the city back to life. I'm not asking you for the world. You know, I'm not asking you to make Detroit a fun place to be. I'm just telling you, make the football team good for those poor souls that are trapped in Detroit, Michigan, because they need something other than fentanyl to enjoy themselves with, you know? They really do. Moving on to Cincinnati. The Bengals, 35-17 over the Falcons. And this was the Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow show early on. Joe Burrow over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns in the first half. Burrow to Chase combined for 8 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This is the game, and all of a sudden, this Bengals team that we had all written off and said, oh, these Bengals, they're not as good as they were last year. These Bengals are a different team than they were the first couple weeks of the season. The defense is starting to play, and they are using those weapons to a T and starting to throw the fuck out of that ball down the field. Now, when they play teams with that big pass rush, they still run into problems with the offensive line, and that's certain. But if you get those big guys going down the field and people start backing off a little bit, then maybe you can buy him some time and let him do his job, because Joe Burrow is an absolute assassin. All these people that were coming out and saying Joe Burrow sucks, you know, take off the Cartier sunglasses, blah, 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 blah. I hate to admit it. I'm a Steelers fan. I would love him to suck, but he's very good. I would take him in a heartbeat if I could. And there's nothing you can do about him. He's absolutely inevitable. He comes for you whenever he wants to, as long as he has some time and he's not flailing around on the ground from being hit in the head 16 times in a row. He is an absolute baller. Now, if you look at the Falcons defense obviously is not the best. It's not anything to write home about, but when you lose somebody like A.J. Terrell, who is one of the best young corners in the league, if not the best young corner in the league, it really, really hurts your chances, and we saw that today. They just took advantage of the backups, and it was a long day. Kyle Pitts is an absolute bust. I think I'm ready to say Kyle Pitts is a bust because what does he have? 1 touchdown in his first 2 seasons so far? It seems like they just don't even care to get him involved. And Arthur Smith, for all the shit that team has gone through, Arthur Smith is a good offensive coach. I mean, he turned Ryan Tannehill into a winner. Marcus Mariota looks like he's very good. They've got some promising backs and promising wide receivers. I mean, fucking Damiere Byrd had 1 catch today, 1 catch on the season, 75-yard touchdown bomb. I know Damiere Byrd is not anyone to write home about, but they've got enough talent to win some games. Clearly, they've been frisky. They're a very frisky team. You don't want to play them. They crushed the 49ers last week, absolutely dog-walked them, but that might be all they are this year. They might just be frisky, and I believe in Mariota. I think he can take them from frisky to good, but they need a lot of help in other areas, and they're not getting it anytime soon. So hopefully Terrell gets back soon, nice and healthy, and he stays healthy and plays well for them. But really, this was just the classic beat up on an inferior opponent game. They were up so much in the first half. The Falcons fought back for a little bit, to give them credit, but the Bengals were up by so much that it just doesn't even matter. And then we move from one quarterback battle to another. You want to talk about a backup quarterback-ish type of player playing off against a legend? Let's go to Washington, D.C., where the Commanders beat the Packers 23-21, and what the fuck is going on in Green Bay? This team that just seems like it always falls into a 12-win season, 15-win season, is really struggling. And Aaron Rodgers is not taking enough ayahuasca, I think. I think people may say he's taking too much. I say he probably needs to trip balls every week of the way his mind is working, because they look terrible. Taylor fucking Heineke. Everyone remembers Chase Young. Heineke. He's him. That whole shit. Heineke. That bullshit. He's fucking good when he has to be. When he comes in and you don't see Taylor Heineke for a while, and all of a sudden he's thrust into the spotlight like he was here with Carson Wentz going down, he is so dangerous. He's fun to watch. He's not necessarily the best quarterback. He's definitely not a starter, as we've seen before, but God damn it, is he fun when he comes in. And he played a hell of a ball game. And Brian Robinson, unbelievable that he is still, he's back playing already. And he's a monster. He had 70 yards on the ground today, I believe. Terry McLaurin, they finally got him going. Taylor Heineke threw a beautiful ball to the back shoulder on a deep ball to Terry McLaurin in the end zone for, I think it was a 35-yarder. McLaurin had 5 catches, 1 touchdown, 75 yards. He's an absolute monster, and they need to throw him the ball more, because when they actually throw him, there's nothing you can do about him. He gets open on anyone. He makes crazy catches, and again, it just comes back to what the fuck are the Packers doing? Because this defense too, all the blame goes to the offense, but this defense, everyone was saying this defense is going to be a top 5 defense in the NFL. They've got not McKenzie, but Alexander. Maybe it is Mackenzie Alexander. It's something like that. Fake football fan over here, but Alexander's an absolute baller at corner. He got burned for the touchdown by McLaurin that I was just talking about, but they have Rashawn Gary, who's really stepped up. They still have some of those guys in the middle, like Preston Smith. Obviously, they lose Zadarius Smith, but these guys everyone was saying, hey, watch out for the Packers defense. They're going to be, a top 5 unit this year, and they haven't been recently. They really haven't. The Jets put up 20-something points on them. Now the Commanders who are 2-4 coming into this game, I believe, now 3-5 or 3-4. And you got to give the Commanders credit. I think they were 1-4, and now they've battled all the way back 2 straight wins to be 3-4. They have a better record than the Steelers, so they may not have a better stadium, but they do have a better record. And that's all I really have to say on that game, because it's crazy that it happened, and that lateral play at the end. Holy shit! Aaron Rodgers threw that last ball to the offensive lineman. It didn't get there, bounced through his legs. And he just collapsed on the ground and was like, my career is over. And he still has 2 years and $200 million guaranteed to keep going. And it looks like he just doesn't want to. I mean, he's wearing the Dracula, long cloak in the press conference. He looks like such a bitch. If you guys ever watched Schitt's Creek, he looks like the sweater that he's wearing looks like one of those sweaters that you go you see in Abercrombie and Fitch or whatever, and you're like, who buys this? Because it's in the men's section, but it's a little thin and it kind of just falls to the ground, and you're like, definitely not just a normal, especially football guy. Even the athletes that do the crazy shit, like the Russell Westbrook pink fucking shirt that went all the way down past his arms. Or Ben Simmons, or whoever the fuck that was. You all know what I'm talking about. Someone needs to tell Aaron Rodgers to just nut the fuck up and stop being a weirdo. You know what I mean? Just apologize to everybody for what he's doing and keep moving forward, because this guy is a fucking lunatic. But that's all I got for that one. If the Packers come back and they win, what are they? 3-4 now? The Packers come in and go 10-6, I will be utterly astonished. But they probably will, because that division's horrible. So anyway, let's go down to Jacksonville. The Giants come back and beat them 23-17, and this team is legit. Brian Daboll has to be the coach of the year. They're 6-1. They're absolutely unstoppable in the run game. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley are electric together, because you have Saquon Barkley, who has the most giant legs you've ever seen in your life. He's so athletic, so fun to watch, super explosive. And you have this guy, Daniel Jones, who's the whitest, I'm here, I'm an athlete too, guys, kind of a guy. And then all of a sudden he's running for 20 or 30 yard plays, and you're like, how the fuck? He looks just so unassuming, but he's athletic as shit, and there's no way to stop it. I don't know how to describe it. If I walked out on the NFL field, I'd be like, who's this weird tall motherfucker that's playing backup quarterback for the Giants? And all of a sudden he'd be running by me for a 75-yard touchdown before he falls over. But the Jags were favored by 3 at home for some reason, and everyone and their mother is like, hey, this is the game, the Giants are going to fall, and they didn't. They, credit to the Giants, they kind of remind me of the 2020 Steelers here, though. The only difference is the 2020 Steelers, everyone thought was going to be good, and they kind of looked, they were like a good bad team, not a bad good team, Whereas this Giants team, they could be a bad good team maybe at the end of the season, but they look like a good bad team to me right now. They look like an on fire bad team, and they're starting to make me think that they're just a good team. They really are. The Jags too, they're coming back. They beat the Chargers. They look like a respectable franchise. Trevor Lawrence had a good day today. Etienne had over 100 yards on the ground. But they're just a couple years away, and they can't put it together at the end of games like in this one. So, unfortunately, the Jags may have to go back to go back to the drawing board for a little bit before they can actually get themselves into the playoffs. And I think they slide all the way to 2-5. Now we move to the Colts and the Titans. The Titans, there's not really much to say about this one. Tannehill said, he got injured during the game, but he'll be fine, is what they think at the moment. Derrick Henry is slowly doing this thing that he always does, where he just slowly gains more and more and more and more and more yards, and then all of a sudden, he's like the NFL rushing leader in Week 15, and you're like, where the fuck did that happen? And the Texans are like, like 12-2, and you're like, this team is amazing. When in the beginning of the season, we all thought, oh my God, this team is the worst football team I've ever seen. And Tannehill looks horrible, but they finally got big Derrick Henry going again. And I think they're going to be all right. They'll probably win the division with how easy it is and Matt Ryan getting injured. The Colts stink. I feel so bad for everyone who drafted Jonathan Taylor first overall, because he can't do anything because he has no help. Pittman is fine, but Matt Ryan has been horrible. He might retire halfway through the season. He might pull an Andrew Luck and be like, you know what, I think I'm done because I know I can't play anyway, and I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to leave because he might rage quit life, and he's atrocious. Last game I'm going to do right now is going to be the Texans and the Raiders. The Raiders 38-20 over the Texans. And this is the Suck Bowl. I'm not going to lie. This is the Suck Bowl. We have a high-scoring game here. But I think this is your classic good, bad quarterback versus bad, good quarterback thing. I think Davis Mills has this thing about him where for some reason I still think he's good. I don't know why. I don't know how. He didn't have a great day today. I mean, his statistics, not horrible, but not anything to write home about. I mean, 302 yards on 28.4 yards passing. Or, sorry, 28.4 yards passing. Jesus Christ. That's not it. 28 out of 41 passing. So maybe like 60-something% completion percentage, which isn't horrible, but it's not going to get it done. And he just doesn't have anybody out there besides Brandon Cooks, really. It's a bunch of random people. And Dameon Pierce is a good running back. And I mean, they may have some pieces, but I feel like you got to keep letting Davis Mills go. They're so bad around him. He makes these throws, and you're like, he's pretty good. They don't ask him to do whole much. Whereas like Derek Carr, everyone goes, oh, Derek Carr. I love Derek Carr. You get him Devontae Adams. You're like, here it is. This is going to be Derek Carr's huge year. And they're 1-4 coming into this game. And even in this game, there's this thing with Derek Carr where I feel like Derek Carr is like this unassumingly horrible person. Like, Derek Carr is supposed to be the nice guy that everybody likes, that is like the big Christian and has like 16 kids, like he's going to be the new Phillip Rivers, and he's never going to win, but he's going to be a good guy, and he's going to win a decent amount of games. He'll just get knocked out in the playoffs. I think this guy stinks. He wants the ball in his hands for some reason because he's horrible, and the only time he can actually hit a pass is when Hunter Renfrow or Devontae Adams are absolutely wide the fuck open, and it's pretty easy when you have those two guys. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty easy. I could probably complete a couple passes to those dudes too. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes for them going the rest of the way. I mean, they pick up this win, but it means absolutely nothing. I think everyone knows that. But they're just a bad team. They're just a bad team. Both these teams suck. I mean, Josh Jacobs, 143 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns is a monster game. I mean, this guy is good. Like, they have a decent offensive line. Josh Jacobs is amazing. I think if they just let this guy run the football like he could, and Derek Carr took an emotional backseat and was like, hey, I'm not going to be a huge asshole and try to win this game by myself, then the Raiders might be okay. But until that happens, I think that's it. And I think there's going to be more losing to come for the Las Vegas Raiders before there's more winning, and I'll be willing to eat shit on that one if that is not the case. In Baltimore, the Ravens just barely pulled off the Browns here. This made me mad, I'm not going to lie. It made me a little angry just because the Browns, to keep the Steelers in the division, I need everyone to lose, and the Browns would have been 3-4. If we would have won that game last night, we would have also been 3-4, and Baltimore be at 3-4 as well. So the division is still wide open, but it would have been even more wide open than it is. And it didn't happen. The Ravens finally held somebody off at the end of a game, but Lamar still looked horrible. Lamar still looks horrible. I don't know what happened to Lamar after the first couple of weeks. He was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. And now he's just atrocious throwing the football. I mean, 9 for 16, 120 yards against this Cleveland team that has given up a lot of yards to a lot of bad teams. And he just is not getting it done anymore. A total QBR of 47 and a quarterback rating of 80.2. I mean, it's not good. Gus Edwards had 2 scores on the ground, but there's really nothing that you can write home about from either team. They both look kind of down, not the greatest, and that's good for me. Honestly, I fucking hate both of these teams. So really, the thought of them even coming close to winning that division just makes me want to throw up in my mouth. So anything that you can do to get them out of that zone is fine with me. And I'm not going to lie, it saddened me a little bit because I went, oh, they're back into that game. They're back into the game. They keep getting back in. They keep getting back in. And the fucking Cleveland Browns just couldn't get it done. I wish they could, but they didn't. And it's a sad day, but it's okay. The division is still wide open. I fucking hate both of these teams, and I'm really, really nervous. There's been some rumors out there about DJ Moore, who I know they've said that they're not going to trade him. I know that they have. However, if DJ Moore gets traded to the Baltimore Ravens, I will have never been more scared about a football team in my entire life. The one thing they need is a weapon on the outside who's consistent, because Duvernay is fine. He's having a monster year, but he's not DJ Moore or anybody like that. Bateman hasn't become what they want him to. That would scare me a lot. It would scare me a lot. And their defense has been atrocious as well. So as long as that defense stays terrible, I think we'll still have a chance. And we'll be able to do whatever we usually do to them, and I think it'll be okay. But if they trade for a big-time wide receiver here, then I will be scared. Or if they sign somebody, whatever the fuck. And then, finally, I posted my rant of it last night, if anybody saw it. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm just saying pod on Instagram and on TikTok. It is, it's just atrocious effort by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett looks good and then he looks horrible. Our offensive line is not good. The real problem is we need to fire Matt Canada, and it just isn't happening soon enough. He's horrible. I saw a stat today that said in the 5 years or however long that Canada has been there, I think it's 3 or 5 years, the Steelers have scored more than 20 points only 5 times, and those 5 times were all with Ben Roethlisberger, who's a Hall of Famer. The guy needs to go. He needs to go now. He needs to go quickly. He needs to go in a fire. He needs to go. He could go to Vegas. Like, I would send him on a trip to Vegas myself if I could afford it. He is so bad. Our offense, every time the team gets rolling, and the defense, they played better, but they made some big mistakes, and the defense kind of is what the defense is. The offense, every single time we get rolling with something, with some couple sets of plays, with the scheme, every time Kenny gets comfortable, every time we get some good protection, we throw in a play in there that's just stupid. Like we did a double reverse last night, and it ruined the whole flow of our drive, And then I think we either kicked a field goal or punted. It is unfathomably unimaginable why we do some of that shit, especially being the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are a line it up, run it down your throat team, that we don't do, even though our running back is bigger than anybody you've ever seen play the position. That's not necessarily true, but you know what I mean? He's a big-ass dude. And I'd love to see him do more, but it just hasn't been in the cards. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to get too mad on a Monday. You know, it's you want to try to feel good, get your week started going in the right direction on a Monday, and I've already gotten mad. I've been from the Steelers are terrible. The Steelers may have a chance to be good. The Steelers are terrible. The Steelers beat the Bucks, and I'm excited about the Steelers again. Holy shit, we have a chance. To the Steelers are terrible, and obviously the Bucks are terrible too, so it doesn't even matter, and we should just try and get this top 5 pick, which we've never had, I feel like, ever, but we'll give it a shot. I just don't care. As long as we don't fire Tomlin, I don't care. Just do anything but fire Tomlin, and that's all I ask. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode. I know there's a lot of downtime. I know I just had a nice big old mouthful of spaghetti here, but it's okay. We'll get better. We'll get more refined. I'm going to try to do one a week and put out some content in between, but no guarantees, obviously. I'm trying to get better at it. I'm looking at everything every day, so if there's anything you need to let me know about, please do it in the comments, and I hope you guys have a great day and a week, and I will see you back again, hopefully on Saturday or Sunday morning, to get y'all ready for week 8.